Okay, today we're looking at the practical investigation. All right, there's a few things about practical investigation. Um, so, as it says, you've got to do some experiment, and then you're investigating something, and then you write a report on that, which is in the form of poster. All right, and also there's aspects on the exam that are to do with experimental processes, strategies, techniques, design, etc. So this is not just purely an experiment. Anyway, let's have a go ahead and see what it says. So this is that says there from the study design. It's unit 4, it's area of study 3. All right, so it's outcome 3. So you've got to develop a question, come up with a hypothesis. So something about your question. Really, to me, those two things are kind of almost one in the same. Plan a course of action. So what that means is you've got to plan an experiment that you can then use to answer whatever it is. All right, now the things that it's got to be essentially anything in units 3 or 4, and you'll get, and there's a list of possible experiments. Try not to pick something that's too tricky. All right, so trying to keep things as simple as possible are usually the best idea. All right, so then you've got to collect some data. As it says here, collection of primary data, quantitative. All right, so it's got to be numbers involved. So, you can't do blue, green, yellow. It has to be numbers. Then got to analyse it, evaluate it, identify limitations and things of your data and methods. All right, science ideas, and then you've got to have a conclusion which will relate to your question. Those two things are indelibly linked with each other. All right, so the conclusion is actually, people get all hung up on a conclusion. The conclusions actually should be reasonably easy. Your question, was it answered or was it not, essentially? All right, so that's kind of a bit of a summary of what the study design's got to say. So what does that actually mean for you? All right, so here's what it means to you. For you, there's 5 dot points that summarise that. You've got to develop a question from the areas of study in units 3 or 4. Plan a course of action that tends to answer your question. Undertake your investigation, collect your data, organise your data, then interpret it, and then reach a conclusion. Right, that all sounds pretty simple. The other requirement there in the bold is that you have to do something which has 2 continuous independent variables. All right, so continuous means measured, so things that you can measure, not count, but measure. All right. And then I already mentioned that the results are in a poster format, and then this other underlined bit here is you've got to have your practical logbook, and so that's got all the detail. All right, your poster ends up being a bit of a summary of what you did, what you found, but your logbook has all the detail. All right, so you'll have all the nitty gritties in your logbook, but then your poster there, because you only got 1,000 words in that. for your poster, so you haven't got room to put all the gritty details, so they go in your logbook, and when it's assessed, both of those things are looked at. Alright, so the other thing you need to know that is the assessment for outcome 3 of Unit 4, and everyone wants to know how much of our internal market is. So 35 of the 95 internal marks for semester, what am I talking about? Unit 4. Alright, people, other thing people always ask, can I work as a pair or can I work on my own? Well, the answer is yes to both to that. It doesn't matter which one you do, whether you work in a pair or on your own, but the key thing is there you need your own poster. Alright, so your own poster and logbook. Alright. So really what you would do, if you were doing that, as it says there, the planning execution of the investigation you would do together, and then pretty much after that, then you would do the rest on your own. Alright, as it says there, the only identical feature must be the data. Alright, so just need to make sure that if you're working in a pair, what you finally end up with is not worded exactly the same. Alright, now the last thing about this in this introduction is this bit here. Alright, so this is the study design for outcome 3 and what it senses as the key knowledge. Alright, so I'll let you read through that. I'm not going to read through all of that for you or with you. But what I will say is the exam has questions related to experimental techniques. So things like those first dot point you would need to know for the exam, those kind of things. Alright, so some research methodologies and techniques. Alright, so the data, what you do, so these things down here that I'm about to read, precision, accuracy, you need to know those things. Uncertainty and error, distinction between those, you need to know kind of those kind of things for the exam. Alright, what else in there specifically for the exam do we need to do? Well, again, physics terminology and that kind of stuff specifically for the exam. Alright, what I've just mentioned too, just because the things I haven't underlined doesn't mean that, you couldn't necessarily be asked something along those lines for the exam. But the dot points are written more specifically too about the investigation itself, but those things in particular, but not exclusively, are the kind of things that you could be asked on the exam. Alright, so that's the first little bit of introduction to the practical investigation. The next bit we'll go into a little bit more detail about the planning